Good morning, everyone. This is the Training and Ultimate Walking Room community call on 10th of December. We're going to record this call and publish on YouTube, and we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct. So just before we get started, any new people here in the call just want to say hello? Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Pratik, and this is my first time here. So I'm here for a discussion about the trainer UI part.
Mhm.
And uh, thank you for having these kind of discussions from the CNCF part. Okay.
That's great. Thanks for joining. Yeah, looking forward to a proposal. Yeah, feel free to add this topic to the agenda. We can talk about it today. To the notes. So I think first of all, I just wanna let me share my screen. I think we need to announce a couple of things in terms of this invites. So first of all, we migrated to the new calendar, which is the CNCF, which is basically like the CNCF public calendar we're going to use, and so you can access this new calendar using this link. So we're going to move all the meetings from all the Kubeflow calls here, and it will actually we're going to have a new Zoom link for those meetings. So we kind of like send this announcement to Kubeflow Discuss and also to Slack. So if you have any problems with joining those calls, please let us know in Slack or in some other places. So at least like we can understand like how make it easier for you to join those calls. Um, Also, I think we're working to add this information to the qflow.org. So right now, if we go to the community page, um, we still have um, the old meetings here, but we're going to merge the PR to update this calendar to include this new updated invites. And like here, like if you want to, download the iCall, you can do this here, and then you can just add this to your calendar, so you will see all the meetings invites. Um, Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, it's a good agenda. Yeah, so let's definitely think about it, like like if it's gonna work for us. Again, like it's a new tool. This is the first time we're using it, and hopefully, like that will automate our published recordings, and also that will automate um like the meetings invites, etc. So let's see how it goes. And I also like publish a new Zoom link here. I think like only kind of problem that we might have that for different time zones, we might have different Zoom links. So this meeting is starting in 2 p.m. UTC, another one starting at 5 p.m. UTC, which might generate two different Zoom links. And I will keep it posted if we need to, have this available here uh, to join it. Otherwise, we will use just one Zoom link for all the calls. Yeah. So any questions so far for this, for any problems to join these calls? Um, Maybe a question to you, Pratik, like how do you figure out about these calls to join it? Or do you just follow the Slack channel?
I just followed the Slack channel.
Me too. I also
Uh,
got the Slack channel.
Yep, that sounds good. And did you check the qflow.org or you just check the Slack channels to join it?
Only the Slack channel.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
Yep, that sounds good. Um, all right. So in that case, let's maybe quickly talk about a few topics we have in the agenda. So first of all, I think like we still yeah, we're still kind of like collecting feedback from the survey feedback from users on Kubeflow SDK. I think I maybe want to announce it here again. So we do have this survey we run. We're planning to finalize it sometimes in January. So if you have a team of families, or if you know like folks who can give us a good feedback about your challenges to run AI workloads, please fill the survey. Um, so we already have like some of the feedbacks, but we're looking for like more people who, like, who want to use Qflow, who never actually use Qflow, but actually we're trying to understand your challenges and how we can, um, we can build the future experience in Qflow SDK. So this is the first thing. Other topics before we jump to the caps. Anything else we want to talk about, like on the terms of release or other small items? All right, then maybe we can jump directly to discussion around the proposal for the change of status. So, Rob, do you want to share a little bit like your updates, or how do you want to discuss it?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure really. I mean, I think maybe if I outline what I see as the sort of biggest outstanding question right now, which I think is there's obviously questions about the design the design approach and sort of the specifics about how it's implemented. But I think sort of a key question is about whether we're going with whether we want to use a pull based approach or a push based approach. And I wonder whether that might be a place to start. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think we talk about it at with Antonin at KubeCon. Um, so definitely, again, can I first of all ask you a few questions? So the pull-based approach, is it more secure compared to push-based? Because the country
Uh,
called the job, right?
I mean, I think the security they can be made equally as secure. I think the disadvantage of the push-based approach, where the train job itself is pushing metrics into the control plane, is obviously you're creating that new endpoint that needs to be secured. But I think uh, the way that I'm proposing to apply that security is pretty secure. The downside of it is the additional maintenance effort that it puts on the maintainers, because it's not a completely trivial thing. It's not something where we can use, say, the Kubernetes API server to provide the security.
Okay. And for pull-based, like, do we still use this approach? Because I didn't get a chance to check like the pull-based deeply, but like we still are we going to use the file? Like so, but we have the discussion around like probably we just have like we're gonna write metrics to the file and
Mm.
control will read the file to understand.
Yeah. So the pull based the train job will write the metrics and its progress to a file that is in a shared volume with a sidecar, and then the control plane will call an endpoint on the sidecar.
Mm-hmm. I see. And the site basically we don't really think about using kube control exec or kube control um, CP some sort of like
Mm.
something like this. Like have you tried to see like whether the pool base can work without sidecar? Um,
So we have a version in our midstream that isn't using the sidecar. So we do have a little API server a little HTTP server that we're spinning up in a separate thread, which does seem to work fairly well. I think the downside to it is it's a non-trivial amount of code that's required to set up the HTTP server. So what we're doing at the minute is we're injecting that code through the SDK. So it's inlined into the pod itself, and there's a good couple of hundred lines of code maybe there that's being injected. So it's probably not going to be that sustainable if you it's going to reduce the amount of code that users can inject in their custom train function.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess like it also limit how many metrics we can parse, right? Like, do we have any limitation in terms of the like the number of metrics we want to report?
I don't think so. It would change the size of the payload, but that wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I think you'd probably be unlikely to have payloads that are megabytes in size. So I think you can support whatever size payload you need. Actually, to be honest, you're probably going to be limited more by how big um, the payload will fit on the actual custom resource itself.
Yeah, yeah. So I think yes. I mean, the pool base definitely also introduce other problems like, for example, like are we going to wait before we update the status on the train job before processing to the next step? Because it's kind of like happening asynchronously,
Mm.
and I
So,
know
so
that.
we
Good.
Yeah, so we did manage to find a solution to that, which was to put the final status in the termination message,
Mm.
and that does appear to work pretty reliably. I think there's a max size that termination message can be, but I think it's quite large. Um, I can't remember the exact size, but it seemed to work quite well.
Did you do any scalability kind of testing to see, because this sidecar will expose endpoint, and imagine like we have like thousands of pods, which is like thousands of endpoints, or we only need to expose this on the master, I guess, node, right?
Yeah, so only on the master, or on sort of from one of the nodes. That was what I was proposing. Um, there's that does introduce a bit of complexity with identifying which node it is that's actually going to have the sidecar injected into it. And that was one of the downsides that I tried to outline or highlight, was that this then introduces complexity in the training runtime or the cluster training runtime. When users are setting it up, they need to provide a way of saying, okay, and this pod is the one that's or this set of pods is the one that's going to be able to expose the training metrics. I wasn't
Yeah.
too clear on the details of that, but it felt like there was going to be some configuration that users were going to have to set up, and it was going to make it a little bit more difficult for users to actually use this feature.
Yeah, we can mutate the sidecar during initialization though, right? Like we can do this in when we constructing the job set from the train job.
Yeah, so that was what I was proposing, but you still need a way of saying which is the right which is the right pod that is able to expose this. So I'm thinking, in an API scenario, you might have your driver and your actual worker pods, but you may only want to instrument the driver, and so now the user's got to know, is the driver's the one that needs instrumenting, and this is how it needs instrumenting. That needs some sort of configuration defining in the cluster runtime.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, this. Don't you think this configuration can be, implemented in the plugins itself? Because in the plugins we do understand, which um, how to inject the sidecar. I think the problem would be for job sets. So for torch run, because like the main difference between API run and torch run executes basically we use single index job, right? And then
Mm,
we have the basically job set which creates one job, and this job has a bunch of pods. And let me open it quickly. So um, so basically it looks like this, right? But then it creates
mm,
the job which has like multiple parallelism and completion, like parameter parallelism completion, and the job
mm,
create multiple pods. But we only need to inject, I guess, sidecar for the job with the index 0.
mm,
The
mm.
master job, right? Which means in any case, we need to do some sort of mutation, I guess, because we don't
Yeah,
have
so
yeah, good.
so I think for the torch distributed one, this was a lot. This would be a lot easier to implement. I think there was one of the other. So I haven't gone into this in too much detail, but I think I saw one of the other cluster runtimes had it had the node and the launcher.
Yeah, it's a API run, like deep speed, for example. API have
DeepSpeed, yeah,
yeah, launcher and the node. Yep.
yeah. So there need to be some additional well, you could have some additional configuration in here, or it could go in the plugin. I guess the downside I'm thinking about there is we're now scattering these implementation details throughout multiple
Yeah, I
plugins.
get.
Every time you add a new plugin, you've got to go, well, how do we make it compatible with Progress?
Yeah,
Um,
actually, yeah. Actually, I mean, you're right. We can split it, but I think it will be very tricky because we only do this. So basically, like what you're saying, we can actually split the master node from the worker nodes and have the master node having the sidecar, right? And then have a worker node that runs without sidecar. But both of them will still use torch run to execute
mm,
the PyTorch distributed, right?
mm,
Um, yeah, I think it's very tricky, and I don't think it's necessary because in that case, we need to also make sure those worker nodes has world size -1
Mm,
number of jobs, which kind of unnecessary. That is why, again, as I said to you, we can probably do admission, mutation. We can mutate this sidecar during the pod
mm,
admission, right?
mm,
And we can mutate this only to the master, basically to the master node, right?
mm.
Um,
I
but
think
yeah,
so.
go.
So I'd contrast this with the push based approach. I think has a yes, it has a lot of complexity on the securing this new endpoint, but actually from a user experience perspective and a sort of, I
Mhm.
guess, isolation of the feature from everything else, it is much cleaner. So from a user experience perspective, um, any of the runtime pods is able to publish those messages, those progress messages. There's no,
Yeah.
they can coordinate between themselves and push that information however they want to coordinate it. And then from a maintenance perspective, it's all the different runtimes don't need to know about this. Actually, we can, well, we need to provide the callbacks to
Hmm.
call the right endpoint. But actually, there's no need to change any of the plugins.
Yeah, I think, definitely, as long as we can intercept the application layer, we can do push-based collection.
Mm,
I mean, the pull-based is good when you don't know anything about application, what you run, right?
mm,
So it's give you more flexibility, but at the same time, it provides additional kind of like, complexity, right?
mm,
Because, for example, imagine you run like, I don't know, Swift code, right? So, and you have to build this instrumentation inside different programming languages if you want to support push-based metrics. Because for the pull base, we can say, hey, if you can create this file, or if you similar to what we do with Katib today, right? If you print the metrics to std out, we give you an ability to consume them. But that will introduce additional complexity and also additional overhead in terms of managing those systems, right? I think for push-based also, I would say might be useful for hyperparameter optimization algorithms, like for example, which is based on like hyperbands
mm,
or like other algorithms which make a decision after every epoch, for example.
mm,
Like and all of those, I think they call evaluation algorithms, right? Like, what should do next based on the previous, like results during my training process. So I think if we prove that the push-based approach works, we can probably extend it in the future to support other things like, um, HPO or any, like reinforcement learning algorithms, etc. Um, yeah, so I think push-based probably will be, a good start. Anyway, so Antonio, what do you think? Like, uh, shall we start with that and see if we can expand the pull-based in the future? Um, Yeah, Anthony, I just saw you join. Maybe if you can, you can give your perspective, or we can talk about it later.
Give me a second. I'm in
Yeah,
multiple call. I'll
no
be
worries.
right there in a minute.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. But yeah, we can just come back to this. I think a couple of other questions, like Rob, I have.
mm.
I did a few comments about the callbacks as well. Um, I know we kind of been discussing probably why we don't want to reduce callback to Transformers library directly. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be the right direction to go in sort of the long term goal. I think the my my thinking was I don't know how receptive the community the Transformers folks would be to adding this, so I wanted to propose an alternative method where we didn't need to rely on them adding it for this bit of functionality to be useful.
yeah, I
So
just
yeah, I think it'd be good that could go there as well.
I mean, yeah, I know that. I mean, that there are some work from other folks from Red Hat who was doing like just-in-time checkpointing in transformers and enable graceful shutdown. And if you know some folks in your team or in other teams who can help us to move this forward, I think that would be probably useful because yes, we can always do monkey patching on SDK side, but it's probably will not be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I don't see any kind of reason for them to say no, to be honest, because again, looking for other callbacks, they get quite kind of like simple. They just check if the service is available, whether it's flow, flight, or wait and biases, and then they have their own instrumentation there. Yeah, so I mean, like I think my only ask here, if you can connect with those guys who integrate in just-in-time checkpointing to transformers, if they can help us to build this callback, I think that this is probably what we can do, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I can we can look at starting that conversation.
Okay. I think other comments, like, so the simple one in terms of the API structure, I still think we might want to use slice instead of map, uh, because like there are some limitations on the Kubernetes side, but we can follow up with async, like the proposal that Vanessa added here um, with metric name and value instead of having the map there, the dictionary, right? This one. Because of the problem with the map approach, if we want to do patching, um, it might be hard for us to do patch. Because, like, for example, like the value of the metrics, like, how, Rob, do you think we can collect it right now? Is it the latest value, average value, or what is this value?
I mean, my take on it is it's the current value at the time that the status was last updated. So it would actually be on the client's responsibility to keep track and gather all the current live metrics and post them all together. I think the reason I was thinking that was just in case a client has a metric that's available for one epoch, and then later on it gets removed for whatever reason. You want to make sure that that old stale value has been removed because that's no longer valid. That's no longer the current metric.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So I mean, for every point of time, the metrics should be reported, right, and should be pushed.
Yeah, so it should be the entire set of here are all the metrics that are currently valid.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it would be tricky, right? Because, uh, like sometimes they can report metrics like um after epoch, and sometimes they can report metrics during the batches. And yeah, like I don't know if we can enforce the users to report metrics on every callback, right? Have you checked like how others solve it, like other callbacks, here, if they have similar functionality?
I know from MLflow, you can actually just report individual metrics one by one. But would it be so for something like transformers? Would it be that tricky to if we're looking to upstream this into, say, Hugging Face transformers? Would it be tricky to store those metrics in memory so that they can all be reported at once? So even if you have different values at step and epoch time, the current value will be stored in memory.
Yeah, but like how are you going to use this value from in-memory metrics? You mean just having the representation of the metrics in memory and then report them like after epoch end?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think um, I mean the problem would be, what if users like on which stage we should allow them to report metrics? Because there are multiple callbacks, right? Multiple kind of stages, like on train ends, on epoch ends, on batch ends, right? when we
Would
should.
it would it matter when it was reported? Because if it would just be a snapshot of here is the latest information that's available, it doesn't need to tie in with
Mhm.
the any particular stage of the training. Was my thinking.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we can start. Yeah, so we can start with just allowing them to report everything on a single call. Um, then see, whether they need more kind of um, granular, more control, like over the one. Because in that case, like if we give them more control, in that case, we need to kind of uh, introduce the last transition time parameter, right? In that case. Um, I mean, like I was talking about, like like this the API. Let me double check. Um, so the last update time, basically, like we should introduce last update time on the metric side, right? So
Are you thinking for each individual metric?
yeah,
So
for
I
each
don't quite.
individual metric, some sort of right.
Yeah.
Um, I would say so. I think I mean we can start with something simple and then just extend it this API. I think that's true. I think like eventually we might. I mean, users might want to have some sort of like uh not only the latest but like the maximum, minimum. It could be average, right? I don't know if we should do this, right, or if it should be user responsibility to report the metrics correctly, right?
Yeah, I mean, just for for reference, I'm not averse to using this slice based format for it. I think the my motivation for using the map one was just that added human readability. If you're doing using a kubectl describe, you can more easily see um, the metrics for say the train and eval groups simultaneously.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, kubectl describe like because in any case, users will consume this via SDK. So
Mm,
that's why maybe we should think about what is the right thing from the API perspective, right? And
yeah.
from the control plane perspective. So it should be fine. Um, yeah, so I think it's tricky with last update time. Like, yeah, let's. Um, but again, we can extend it, right, in the future. I mean, if we need to introduce the more kind of because again, I feel like if we're gonna use this, for HPO in the future,
Mm,
it will require for us more kind of other, more complex information about like other information about the metrics. And maybe it could be average of the total of the metric of the loss, right? Um, etc. So yeah, but maybe we can extend the API moving forward for this. Yeah, so I think other topic that I maybe want to quickly talk about it's yeah, so the time, right? So the progress time. What is your like initial, thoughts on how we can detect the estimate time?
yeah, my thinking was letting the instrumentation code define it itself. So the control plane wouldn't need to calculate this at all. It would be up to the runtime code itself to say, I think there's about this much time left.
But how you will detect it? Like how your instrumentation will understand this?
So it might be in the case of something like transformers. It would use that approach that you're saying here. It could be something a bit more a bit simple, like here's how long the last epoch took, and then here's the number of epochs left, and just multiply those numbers together. Or it could be something a little bit more complicated, but it could be up to the each individual instrumentation for each framework to decide exactly how to do that uh, calculation. Because I guess my thinking is it depends on the amount of time left will depend on exactly what the ML framework is.
Yeah, but again, like I think it's not about ML frameworks, right? it's about the, so instrumentation, the algorithm, like who we will define algorithm, right? Like, our instrumentation will define algorithm. Is it correct? And algorithm, I'm talking about like how we're going to calculate the time, checking like taking the batch size into consideration, taking like the number of epoch into consideration. Like, is it up
Yeah,
to us? Yeah, good for
that's your proposal is super reasonable, right? Am I sorry? I'm like fly by driving in and saying this.
No worries. Like, I think so. I usually propose to Antonio and KubeCon that, hey, if we know the time of the first epoch, theoretically we know the time of the entire train job, but this is not always true.
Right, there's variance in
Yeah,
that.
there are variants, right? And there are also like information like batch size, right? What is the time of the first batch? Maybe we should take a medium, right? Of it. Um,
I mean, the biggest thing is it depends on LLM versus traditional ML models, but basically within models where you're predicting a sequence, if you have one training observation with a very, very long sequence, that can misestimate the expected wait time. If you had uniform sequence length, then that'd be a much easier problem because it's approximately the same, barring some weird other mysterious stuff in a transformer. But
yeah, so we need to like, we need to, so, first of all, we need to figure out, whether we focus on transformer, architecture. And I know there are some papers, how people predict the type, because again, it depends on neural network, right? If it is graph neural network, it is a transformer.
yeah, I mean, I guess I like your approach because it's not overcomplicating it, and like it's just an estimate.
Okay. Yeah, again, I think we can definitely develop more advanced algorithm moving forward, right? It's not a problem, right? Just how we going to detect. First of all, we need to detect what is this neural network. Maybe detects, how many layers, etc. But we can do it later, right? I think like checking the batch size or checking the epoch maybe is a good first step, right?
I think it's important to highlight that it's not dependent. It's not something the control plane does. It's something the runtime instrumentation does. So it's quite easy for it to be
Hmm.
updated outside of the KFT code base itself. It's something that happens,
Okay.
runtime side, instrumentation side.
Yeah. So just introduce an API and then think about how we can, update this API in the future to make it more, to make it more accurate. That makes sense. I think steps we can talk about it later. Like, why do we need steps? Because we do have epoch. Like, um, I think that sounds good. Uh, yeah. Other things, I think so. Eval and train, right? Metrics. So, Rob, do you know? So, how are you going to distinguish evaluation from training? Um,
So,
um,
so again, I'm sort of thinking this as it's up to the runtime responsibility to decide the runtime instrumentation to decide exactly how it wants to do that. This is more offering to the runtime, hey, if you want to um, expose different groups of metrics, we can group them together in the in the API.
mhm. But I mean, the problem is like, like the evaluation happening after training, right? Which means like it will be different point of time when
Mm.
for the metrics, right?
Yeah, so it may be that for those algorithms, the instrumentation wouldn't provide the eval metrics. If it doesn't, what I try to do with the API design is support different ways of working where the evaluation. So for some training, you will run evaluation during the training process to get an idea of how the calculation is converging. But then other algorithms, you may not get the evaluation until the training is completed. But the approach supports both methods.
Okay. Yeah, but again, like, evaluation, just again, like it's just, part of your training process, right? And
Mm.
it takes time. So in that case, if you're going to support this, we need to think about, like how users can report it, right? Because the time won't be accurate, I guess, when we update the metrics, right? Um, because the time,
Yeah, is that something that can be factored into how the sort of time remaining estimate is calculated?
yeah.
Um,
So so I think metrics. So we should decouple progress from metrics, right?
mhm.
So we should. That is why again, I think I propose it here. We should decouple probably like the trainer status, between um. Second. So yeah, here. So if we say progress and metrics, they're separate. and like the progress, they checking like the batch sizes, the checking epoch, and the metrics stay separate. Um, it gives us an idea how we can update both of those values, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because then we can, like for example, we can reduce last updated time on the every metrics group, for example, if we want. Um, yeah, and that will give you an ability to, like support more metrics within this group, right? Let's say like you're gonna have like trend metrics and evaluation metrics, and every metrics will be updated at a different point of time. Um, yeah. I think yeah, so yeah, because I guess like we're gonna run this instrumentation once the epoch ends, right? On this callback, from my understanding, right? Um, so once epoch,
Uh,
yeah, good.
I mean, it could go at epoch end, but it could also go at step end. It's I think it just sort of doesn't matter exactly when the evaluation or the metrics are calculated. Yeah, I was trying to make it so that they could be updated at any point, and as I say, capture the current state of the training. So it wouldn't have to be tied to any particular event within the training lifecycle. It would just capture uh, here is the current state of the training model.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Antonio.
Just a quick comment on that. My understanding is that there are two different concepts there in the discussion. So there is the timestamp concept. Generally, when you have a value or that's time based, like for time series kind of data, then you have a timestamp on. So, like from what I understand, Andre, you may want to have a timestamp for each metric, which gives you the accurate moment of observation of the value for that metric. And then there is another one, which is more like how I would understand the last updated time, which is more akin to a Kubernetes concept, a control plane, which is basically giving you some sort a sense of the recency of the how recent that those values that have been. It's the moment where the status has been updated. It's not about the moment of the observation of that any value of the metrics. The last update time is when the control plane update the
Yeah,
status. No matter what, how recent the values there are. Last update time, really, when you see the status in Kubernetes, it has that semantic. Like it's really it gives you that information how recent the status is. Then so to me it's really two different things. Like so last update time, I think it's useful from the control plane standpoint. It just makes sure that there is something going on and you can see that the control plane now. And back to Rob's question, do we need a timestamp for the metric? That I'm not sure.
yeah. I think it's yeah. So um, let's talk about it offline. I think we can do it later. I think like we need to figure out, in the initial API design,
Yeah,
because
so right, yeah. So the key to me would be to progress on that. Would be we have a consensus on the minimal
yeah,
thing that would enable what we are trying to achieve or to start to achieve,
yep.
and make sure it's extensible. Like make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
that
yeah.
we can incrementally add new fields and etc.
Yeah, my also like recommendation is to again start with small there and then extend, because I think like that we also need to think about like latest metrics, average metrics, other things, whether we want to support it as part of this API.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think maybe last thing before I just want to give practic time to talk about UI. So I mentioned the cap about in-place restarts from job set. I'm wondering, Rob, like if you can at least explore whether the validation mission policy might be useful for push-based metrics, or there is not a lot of value it gives us. I linked the proposal in one of the comments. In maybe we can chat offline if there are any additional simplification we can do compared to the certificate based approach in TLS, right? The one that you have in the cap. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I only saw the that comment this morning, so I haven't looked in it in much detail. But yeah, maybe we can catch up on it offline.
Right.
I can add some comments on the cat.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, great work. Let's definitely continue working on this again. Like I will, spend time to again take a look. And are there any other questions for this? All right, then, Prek, do you want to share your screen and quickly go over like the proposal you have for the trainer UI?
Yeah. Think so there's some issue with the sharing. Just a second.
Let me try to make you post.
Yeah, if you can share from your end.
Could you share your proposal in chat?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I found it. So, all right.
Yeah, this proposal was more regarding what features we can have on the UI side. Mainly, we need to discuss like what things we can keep and how we can proceed with it. Uh, Mainly, I was thinking about that we can have a obviously job dashboard where we can see all the workload APIs, uh, and we can have a sorting like a feature where we can see uh, which uh, which pods are running or uh, completed, and we can also have a real-time log streaming kind of thing where we can just see if any logs regarding any failed pods, and also we can have like this uh, graphs for CPU utilizations and as well as for GPU as well. And then we can have that uh, history archival thing where we can see past jobs which have completed or failed due to any reason, and we can just inspect from that the logs. And I've also created some initial UI you can just see at the bottom uh,
Mhm.
regarding that.
Yeah, let me see. You have only the KFP. Okay, okay. So basically, the architecture is aligned with KFP, right? You said.
KFP, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yep. So I guess this is the main view, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, this is like initial UI. I have
mhm.
to still do implement many things in it. I needed just some advice or direction from you guys, like which features are the top priority for as of now,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, what features we can just implement later on while proceeding with it.
Yeah, I think this is great. Like, any thoughts from others? Um, I know also, I think my only question, so this UI, I guess like will it require, so does it have any job history server or are you directly using the
Uh,
kubectl API?
we can keep a job history server. That would be better, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the one thing we need to figure out, I know that, like on his team, they're doing some MLflow integrations. And
Mm-hmm.
like MLflow already has a bunch of components we can reuse to visualize
Yeah,
some of the jobs, right?
yeah.
So we need to figure out how those things can complement each other and whether they should complement, right?
Yeah, sure.
But
I have to just look after that. Uh, uh, I will just update you on this on the Slack.
yeah, I don't know, like, do we have any ideas like how, those two UIs can work together in terms of, you know, um, MLflow integration
Um,
and yeah.
uh, I've not thought about that regarding that. At present, I have to just see how we can just integrate that.
Hmm.
Uh, just give me some time. I can just look after that.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a good comment actually from Mani in terms of the metrics, right? So we can
Mhm,
also have a sublinks here, right? Let's say, like if user wants to get more information, because I guess MLflow doesn't allow us to, for example, stop spouse post train jobs, right?
mhm.
And we can always redirect. And I don't think MLflow also allows, for example, to see, like some other information on train job site or other integrations. Um, yeah, so how to make those two UIs
Yes.
work together, maybe that's a good thing to talk about. Um,
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
it's
I can discuss it with next
um,
what you call. Uh,
yes, like maybe one question in terms of architecture. So the UI, so how do you view this UI being served? Like, is it through Istio gateway or like what about like notification model for this UI?
I was thinking of the Istio gateway only at present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because one of the topic we also talk about, and we should maybe talk about next week with one
Mm-hmm.
of my experience calls about Jupyter Lab extensions. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
we try to make all the our UIs kind of compatible with Jupyter Lab, and at the same time be, have an ability to integrate with Kubeflow dashboard. Because I think there are a lot of interest to have the same UI within, Jupyter Lab environment. I think we talked to,
Yeah.
Eder and other folks about it. And I don't know, maybe starting with, Jupyter Lab extension also could be a good first, step um, to show the power
Okay.
of, like of this UI. Especially, if we already have integration with Kubeflow SDK, because the
Mm-hmm.
Kubeflow SDK can be used within notebooks. If users can also consume this, UI from notebooks as well, that might be useful. Um, And I also know like you should have an ability to actually build this extension in a way they can be served independently as a micro front end and also like as a Jupyter Lab extension. Um, so maybe protect like maybe it's a good next step for you to maybe explore how Jupyter Lab extension works. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and see if there's something we can work on this, right? Um,
Yeah.
on the framework side, I
Okay.
guess like, yeah, good. I just want to ask about the frameworks. I guess like we should probably I think we agree on the React previously. From the I guess there are some if you want to be aligned with model registry, KFP. We've been using Angular before, but I know the new
Mm-hmm.
UIs they're using React for their development. So um,
Yeah. Actually, I thought of keeping this same uh, things like same and similar to the KFP one. So that's why I chose Angular. But yeah, we can build on React as well.
yep.
That won't be a issue.
Any other questions about it?
No.
Yeah, I think overall it is great work. I think it's been it's been asked for like a very long time. I know Francisco created this issue a while ago. I think having something like meaningful definitely would make sense. And we can iterate, right? It doesn't stop us to have like maybe one UI for one set of folks and another UI for like for other people. It's in terms of like the maintain. Yeah.
It's my opinion is simplest and fastest. That'd be
Yeah, I think in terms of maintainers, and do we have any folks who can help, maintain this part? If we're going to push this to the upstream. Um, like any interest like from Red Hat here, like on the visualization part or um, because I guess you, Francisco, created this before. Do you know if there are any?
It's a good question. It's a good question. We need to. I think we need to sync with either, because we've started some sort of UI and we were unsure, but we have some other constraint that makes it difficult, like because we in the UI we want to support different type of jobs, and so that raises the question, because we have that like strategy to what's they call it, like shift left, or where we do everything like the most upstream part of so that would means like contributing to that UI. We need to sync with either on that. We had an action item actually. I don't know if it's been actioned. Yeah, we can keep you in touch with about it.
Yeah, let's definitely discuss it more. Again,
Yeah.
like UI is always hard to do in open source.
Yes.
Hard for this is why again, like I propose in the Jupyter Lab, extension way. Because JL extension is like it's much easier for companies to consume.
Yeah.
And we don't have hard dependency, right, on styling, etc. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm maintaining the Llama Stack upstream UI there, and like my observation is that like Cloud has gotten awesome at front end, but it's not free. There is maintenance work. And so if Red Hat has the appetite to do it, I think it's worthwhile. But if they don't, I mean, Antona is now, leading that team. And so if they don't, then they shouldn't. If they do, they should. I do think like generally, even though it's effort to maintain upstream UIs, it ends up going very far for a community. That's why I did that in Feast, and that's why I'm contributing in Llama Stack. I have to run to another meeting though, so.
yeah, let's continue to talk about this. Like, thank you again, Pratik, for this. Let's see what we can do for the short and long term. And again, like having something maintainable would be super helpful. So, thanks again for this. Right. Thanks, everyone. See you, I guess, next week. I will also switch to other calls for the new Zoom, so please check the calendar for the updates. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.